But for me, the biggest help that I've made is realizing that being kind of happy or pretty happy is fantastic. And I think what keeps most people unhappy, what was keeping me unhappy, and I woke up today and I felt like, while I was driving over here, that I might be in the best mood I've ever been in.
Really?
I was just like, why would I be upset? And it was because of having this revelation that being this other level of like crazily happy, like where you're like in ecstasy every single day, is not a realistic goal. And I think everyone is striving for that. And so their own day-to-day life becomes a burden or miserable because they're not in this special tier of happiness. For me, if most of the things in my life are checked off and good, you know, I have a relationship that I love, a woman that I love, the sex is great, my job is great, I have money, I have a house, my health is there, I'm not doing destructive things anymore.
Big chewy nerds are available.
Big chewy nerds are there. Well, they're not. That was a big blow to my happiness. But if I have all this shit and I'm still like, oh, I'm waiting for this thing where I'm glowing with happiness all day, every day.
Yeah.
That thing isn't possible. And realizing that isn't possible has made me so much happier.
But yeah, the mom was very used to getting her way.
Uh-huh.
In a very, like, you know, wealthy...
This is the second mom.
Yeah, the second mom, very wealthy.
We were just talking about that. Can I speak to that a little bit? It's interesting. Oh, God. I've actually given myself the note that I have to stop talking about how I'm a vegan. It comes up so many episodes, and I do apologize, but I want to make this point.
It's good.
I'm a vegan. My set of the show that we're doing is decidedly not vegan. And then I was saying to Val, I was like, it's weird that they're grilling burgers constantly at work, just constantly. And here I am being like, I don't like animals being tortured, but I'm paying for those burgers. Not me, but you know what I mean? The production is paying for the burgers. The burgers exist. And then I was like, I didn't think I was going to do this for a second, but I was like, am I supposed to be like, we should have more vegan food? And then we're like, no. As soon as you start to control everything, believing your own hype, becoming... like you're saying for this rich person, I don't want to impose this person with that, but it's that temptation of how I see things is how everyone should see things, and you should be nervous around me, and you should bend to me, and then it's me and you're the other, you know what I mean? There's the crew, and they're not vegan, okay? That's completely fine. I love these guys. These are close friends of mine that I work with. And then but if I start seeing them as other and I go, but we should have more tofu, and now some fucking guy like Donnie, who I love from Staten Island, has to eat a not dog because
can you have
I
the
told him
option?
to?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. Like, a lot of that is self-doubt and stuff of like, I can't ever be great. I can't do that. I think I still have that to some degree. Well, people are like, what's your big plan? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I never thought further than this. I guess I should because I could be.
That's
whatever
funny.
I want to be.
That's right. That's true. That is very true. And that is, I've told this story many times, but I remember where I was the first time I thought, like, maybe I could be on a show, like on somebody else's show, like a sitcom or something. And I tried to kind of picture what a billboard on a bus would look like. This sound, by the way, I don't spend most of my time thinking this. This is kind of like a strange thought. Maybe that's what made it remarkable.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'd never be on like a bus like that or on a billboard or on a TV show.
Right.
And it was one of those so you never will be moments where you hear your brain go, don't worry, you won't.
Right, right.
If you can't see
right.
it. And then at that moment, you just start going like, no, I am one of those guys. And I literally think if we all emitted a sound, your frequency changes just a smidge.
Yeah.
And other people start going, even doing this podcast and talking about how Joe List can go anywhere and do whatever he wants.
I'm like, I should start pursuing this because it's real life and I have one life. I should start trying to make films. I guess I should start doing that. I think it's
so interesting, especially in our line of work. No one believes you can do something until you're already doing it.
Right.
Which is so weird.
Yeah.
But that's been the case I find with writing and then acting.
Yeah.
Is like people want to see that it's so built up in you that it's literally overflowing.
Right.
Nobody wants somebody that's like a cup 1/8 full with drive to make movies.
Right.
They want it to be spilling out of you that it like couldn't help but happen. He wrote a script.
Right.
Your first script, who knows if it'll be great or not. Maybe you'll be like Boondock Saints and write a killer movie. Or maybe you'll Tarantino. But like it needs to people are so drawn to self-generating, self-perpetuating passion, I suppose.
One thing is that Robert Putnam has a book called Better Together, and he's like the guru of social capital. He's a sociologist at Harvard, and so I think in every one of those things, that thing that we were talking about, that sort of oneness thing, towns that experience being in, I call it positive proximity, that they experience proximity to one another as a good thing.
Denmark. I always go to Denmark. It's like these forced communities. I don't mean forced. I just mean like we put up so many walls, and the dream here is the gate and the hedge, and as much separation as possible. And Val and I Val was watching this documentary I love called Happy, and there's like in the third part of it, they're talking about places like Denmark where people just live on top of each other, not in a bad way, but everybody's chopping cucumbers, and there's the chore wheel and the kids, and everyone's raising the kids. And this is like a low-income thing. Like this is where poorer people live, and their quality of life is through the roof. This is the summer camp phenomenon. This is what you're talking about with community gardens and stuff. Is we all know what would make us happier, but I feel like there are these competing lies that steal it from us.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. And there's, the whole idea. When I have a friend, his name is Hal Movius, and he loves studies, and he said, Dar, what creates relationships? Like, according to this study, what do you think? And I said, I don't know, values. He goes, nope. And I said, politics, hobbies. Like, no. And he said, it's proximity.
I was resistant to it because I was afraid of destabilizing my plans for my life. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think destabilizing can be the best thing for your life. Mm-hmm. Because it can make you learn more things about yourself. One of the things that I find that I witness with my peers is that the ones who stagnate are the ones who
maintain control.
They maintain control. And they stop thinking there's room to grow. Yeah, I think that if there's one thing, my plan for the next 30 years before I retire is I want to make 10 films, and I want each one to be better than the last one. I want to learn from the one before it. Mm-hmm. And
it's very interesting. That is a type of death. Is when you go and that's it. That's the feeling of depression when I get depressed. Is you're like, and I've done it. Like I've looked under every stone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you forget that Barcelona is a place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you forget that you could learn.
Well, I always tell these kids, they're in their 20s at the improv theaters. I say if I could go back into my 20s and do it over again, or give myself advice to my 20-year-old self, I'd say read more, see more movies, see more of the world, because that age between 20 and 30 when your brain is still very malleable and you're still learning and you're able to learn a lot fast, it's not always like that.
When you're on them, though, do you feel these feelings of I'm seeing reality through this prism? I'm experiencing things in the way that only this body can. There's more. There's God. There's love. There's energy. All those.
Sure, there are components of that to one degree or another. Which is why I think that a light trip is a pretty healthy, life-affirming thing to do once in a while if you're in a reasonable headspace. Nobody ever got wrapped. You never hear so and so is fucking for money now to feed her mushroom habit.
Right.
It's much more, the idea of psychedelics are much more it's less about escaping the human condition and maybe a little bit more about the opposite.
Yeah. I think it's about looking right at it.
And, I am in a place where I've only done it twice or three times, but I do walk into traffic because I'm trying to write a movie about a guy who all of his power comes from not caring if he lives or dies. And everything that he does it because nothing matters. So instead of doing nothing, he does everything because all of it's meaningless. And that takes a lot. The Nietzsche, the stuff that I'm reading, it's this thing right now, it's a stage he calls tunneling, which is where you break down all of your moral systems and you sort of break it down all the way to nihilism. And then once you face nihilism and accept it, only then can you overcome it and begin creating your own meaning.
Starting over.
Yeah, well, not even starting over, just starting. because you didn't start when we all were born. People were just like, this is the way it is. You got to make money. If you have a family, then you should live in the suburbs. If the housing price is in the right place, you got to do a job. You got to make money, but also you want to do something that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about something and you're not successful according to the metrics of society, then you're not a successful person, so you should feel bad about that. But that's okay, because there are plenty of opiates available. There's television, there's consumerism, there's all these different things. So you don't start over. You just start, and you can start at any point. Well, here's my new thing.
Hit it.
Comedians are the new philosophers. That's the responsibility that we have. Before, they were activists. George Carlin, Richard Pryor. It's race, it's politics, it's society, it's social mores, customs, all that. And then our generation, I've talked to Jesselink about this a lot.
Trust me, buddy.
Our generation is supposed to do like death, you know what I mean? And talk about philosophy, talk about the meaning of it all, the meaninglessness of it all that stuff. And not everybody has to do that. I mean, as an absurdist, it's not my place to like explicitly say this is what you should think about it.
But
I think that's why I feel comfortable in that sort of tangential right turn and then veering right back into the weird stuff.
Because you say
but
that
you
thing.
do that. You do that. You
I
go,
do
listen
that.
to me. Listen.
Yeah.
It's not even tangential, but you are a philosopher. This is people like this podcast because it's actually a podcast about philosophy. What is your
Life
philosophy? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The corollary I'm making is that prior
You're
to World
saying
War
two
II,
strong communities, but one.
that have both have become scapegoats for a civil society, blaming all of their problems on a group, an evil group that's out to get us.
Right.
So an acceptable racism, which is what we're in the midst of with like Islam. You know, even people like people will go, oh, but I mean, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to wrap your mind around, right? Because you go, well, wait, I'm looking at 9/11. I'm looking at the terror attacks in France. I'm looking at ISIS, and you're telling me I get why a person's going, and you're telling me don't be racist towards all Muslims. I see this as Islam. I can see it with my eyes.
Right.
It's such a hard thing to go. I think people don't give enough credit to people's inability to have the shades of nuance. Not that, right, I guess the counter-argument would be, well, why are you giving credit to racists? Who cares about giving credit to them? Why do we need to sink to... But it's a reality. It's just it's a de facto reality. People are terrified.
It's a manipulation of our base brain function. You know what we were talking about earlier, the favorites in the iPhone. If you see a lion running at you, run. So it's kind of... It's a perversion... my favorite thing is hate is a lack of imagination. I forget who said it, but hate is a lack of imagination is a fantastic quote. And it's this idea that it's so much easier to just go, I hate and I'm afraid. And instead of trying to put yourself in the shoes of a refugee who moved to your community and they're Muslim. And that was on NPR as well, where there was I'm going to get the country wrong and it's going to be embarrassing. But there was a refugee.
Chad.
Was it Chad?
A guy named Chad from Chad.
Okay.
A Chadian refugee named Chad. No, go ahead, please.
He pushed a white girl into, and she hit her head, and so it was like, look, these people don't share our values.
Exactly.
As opposed to,
oh, I heard what you're talking about. It was a Somali refugee
that's right.
in Minneapolis, and it was a 3-year-old boy who was in a sandbox with a white girl, and he pushed her head into the wall. She cried. She had a bump on her head, and the person's response to these 2 3-year-olds roughhousing was, see, that's not how our 3-year-olds act.
Right.
Which is, from our perspective, lunacy.
Because you're 3 years old, but that's what our brain does.
Exactly. That person's brain said Somali. I see Somali 3-year-old.
Exactly. I do this sort of stuff all the time, not with people, but I'll go, I ate pasta before a show and I had a bad show. I still believe that salty noodle soup is the worst thing you can eat before a show.
Right.
And this is something that benefits me. This is what we do all the time.
Right.
The brain thinks about things.
But also, it
turns things into things.
And you're right. It places value where the value doesn't belong.
It's trying to turn everything into binary. It goes, okay, this is this and this is this. That's how it functions. But this is why I'm trying to, the work of the mystic is to get into your heart, which is a more accepting, open space.
Well, actually, I would say yes. I would say the binary, I would say good and evil is the enemy of deep thought. Binary is the reason that people are at war, because it's so much. The binary is the reason that people believe that in conspiracy theory, even because it's so much easier to think of like a pure evil, like malevolent, scary monster force than to say, actually, no, it wasn't the government, the scary government troop that came in and shot up Sandy Hook. It was my neighbor. Yeah. It was my brother. that did that, because that's so much more terrifying.
Who told me the story? Might have been on this podcast. Was the girl who wakes up at the guy's apartment and he's like, "You can let yourself out." He goes to work. She takes a shit. Realizes the toilet doesn't flush. So she gets a Ziploc bag and she takes it out of the toilet, dog shit style, zips it up, writes a note like, "Thanks for a great time," walks out of the apartment, door locks behind her. She realizes she left the shit
next to the note. Oh my God.
Said, "Thanks for a great time." It's the best
It's
story.
so good because it's like,
best story.
There's no follow-up needed. You're just like, yeah, no, I'm a player. Fuck you. Like, that's the only thing. You have to just commit to that. Like, I'm a terrible person, but that's what I do every time. Every time I fuck somebody. Who is that?
I don't remember. How are all these people so pure? Are we keeping you all in Arizona? Am I so LA now? Well, I was in Boston growing up, and I was like, we need to think of a way that we can do this. Because I'm looking at my fucking dad and my mom, and I was like, these people are squares. I don't want to do this. So it wasn't just like money. So it was about having fun, but it was I want to be out there. What was I just reading that was talking about, like, this is why people need teachers and gurus and people outside. It's hard to, like, wake yourself up sort of thing. Sometimes you need someone that nudges you in your bed.
Yeah.
So you need to let an idea in that's unfamiliar to you. But that is so fascinating. The brain has this capacity to let a foreign element into it, just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's vague. It's not physical. And then have tea with it, and then maybe it stays. Can you think of an example of a thought that was mind-blowing and maybe even seemed wrong that changed you? Something that you picked up along the way?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I don't like.
No, I don't know.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
I think that my experience has just been like, baby steps, and like, you take a little step and you see, oh, this is cool. You take a little step, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And that becomes, the process becomes a reward in itself, and that gives you that solidifies your resolve that that's what I should do. This I don't really want to go do this today. I'm definitely going to do that then.
Oh, interesting.
Because I know what I'm going to get if I do this other thing that I've been doing, the same way.
That's right. Yeah. You're going to keep getting the same result by doing that same thing.
That's kind of what led us down the path of coming into this new record. Is, it's funny how it just that kind of thinking has sort of taken over my entire existence now.
That idea.
Yeah. That, finding yourself arriving at a place that you didn't expect is it's exciting.
And that's literally what life should be.
Yeah.
There are a lot of sad stories and too many examples, unfortunately, of people that just end up in some sort of cul-de-sac. I don't mean literally. I just mean they're doing
totally
loops in a cul-de-sac. I mean emotionally, physically, spiritually.
Chasing your ideal expectation is actually a very limiting way to live. You know what I mean? Like, you're just cruising with blinders on, and
what was your ideal expectation?
I want this.
Yeah.
And not letting in
what's actually happening.
Things you have.
Yeah.
That are.
What's it like playing the same song for the millionth time?
There's some really interesting research that's coming out right now about the microbiome, and the impact.
What is that?
So the microbiome is the sort of
Pauly Shore movie.
Bacterial flora that exists in your intestinal tract. So we like to think of ourselves as sentient human beings, and the truth is that we have like 10 times more like single cell microorganisms in our body than we do human cells. So we're like more a host to this crazy ecology of tiny bugs that live on our skin and inside our cells, right? And
we're more bugs than cells.
That's true, right? and they're starting to realize that the nature of this ecology in your gut actually triggers your nervous system and sends impulses to your brain that lead to cravings. Which
these
is insane.
bugs,
they've done all these studies on this. So what's really cool? So, for example, if you
they're getting together and sending signals to the brain.
Yeah, there's this bizarre intelligence to this whole thing. So if you're eating,
did I already scream?
If you're eating McDonald's every day, you're populating your gut with the kind of microorganisms that feed on that type of food. So then you start to crave that kind of food.
Because there they are.
Because that's what
you
it is.
invited them over.
It needs, you invited them in, right? And now they're like, all right, we're here. We're camping out.
You have a bunch of, like, what's it called when you football game in the parking lot? Forget it. Katie, what's that called? When you follow the Packers and you're in the tailgating.
Tailgate party?
Yeah. So you have a bunch of tailgating Packers fans eating bratwurst, and they live in your stomach.
Yeah.
But it's your fault. You threw the football game.
Exactly. But when you start eating all this healthy food, you start eating kale and you're juicing and you're doing all that kind of stuff, you're repopulating that ecology with a healthier type of ecology there. And then that starts to, and so that's why you start to crave things that make you feel good, which is amazing, right?
That is mind-blowing. Free podcast.
The example I always use is, remember you saw Super Size Me, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so Morgan Spurlock starts eating McDonald's every day, and there's that scene where he like throws up out the window, like he just can't believe he has to keep going, and it's making him sick. And then he reaches this point, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but it was a couple weeks in, where he wakes up in the morning and he's got a massive headache and he feels terrible, and he's like, all right, let's go to McDonald's. And then he eats his McDonald's breakfast, and then shortly thereafter he's like, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because I think that has a lot to do with how he populated his gut biome with this new population that like he needed that food in order to, that's like true addict stuff, right? It's like a guy who's jonesing and can't feel normal until he gets his fix.
Wow.
So,
and is this what happens? Because when you start, you mentioned in your own story, you didn't want to eat plants, and then you did. And there's a withdrawal period. I mean, there's a time when you still have the wrong party guests in your belly, and they're like, what the fuck is this?
Well, yeah, and you have to weather through that. You know what I mean? Like, so there was a couple weeks where I was like, oh, this is terrible, you know, but I'm also in recovery. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I know what a detox is like. Like, I've gone through a million detox. So I knew, like, yeah, I feel terrible right now, but I know, like, this will change. Like, I'm going to stick through at least this uncomfortable period and see what's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And when you get to that other side, then you're free. You have freedom.
I know.
You know what I mean? So that's why I get confused.
It's the scene in Ray where he's in the bed sweating. It's
exactly.
Like, just get through it, Jamie Foxx.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay.
And it sucks, you know, but I think people don't want to embrace that part of it. They just want the easy path. Just tell me how I can just eat what I want.
When really, as you said yourself, pain, I know this is pain that you could stop. That's what makes it tricky. You could eat something and stop the pain. But once you push through it, when you're on the other side of it, it's that pain that kind of burns the seal and locks you on the other side. Does that make sense? Like, you've earned it. And now you're like, I'm not going back to that shit. Like, I fought.
Right. So what does your writing schedule look like? Like, how do you make sure that you protect that time to advance, like, the bigger goals that you have?
Yeah. Well, you see, in the morning, you talk about the ego. There's a while before it shows up. You know, that voice is not clear until around 11 a.m. So for me, it's about getting up. This is you want to talk about the will and knowing what's good for you? It's like, I know when I get up, when I wake up. So I wake up and I don't go, fuck it, I'm a comedian, I'm going back to sleep, or whatever, or I don't have anything today, I'm going to go back to sleep. You get up when you first woke up because your body was waking you up. It's the morning time. They're just going, hey, wake up.
As a comedian, is that like noon?
No. This is like 7. I go to bed early. If I don't have a show, even if I have a show, I go to bed 11. I don't fuck around. So I'll wake up at like 7. That's 8 hours of sleep. That's way more than most people, but it's still fucking 7. So you're totally in the clear if you want to be like, I'm going to go back to bed for an hour and a half, because 8:30, that's still early. You're not even thinking that now you're in the 10-hour sleep. Anyway, so you get up at 7, and that sweet spot, there's like a good hour, because Val will stay up after me. There's a sweet hour and 2 hours. What I need is 2 hours in the morning where I'm just alone in the morning and nothing's happening.
Right.
I love
that. No checking email and all that kind of nonsense. Or do you
I have an interesting system where... I read an article that was like, don't look at your email first thing in the morning because it'll put you in a responding mood as opposed to a creating mood. I look at it. I don't care. I don't have any rules. You know what actually helped me do this more? Because I know, it's like eating. I know I'll be happy all day. You know that secret, the writer's secret, where you're like, no matter what I do, I know I wrote this morning and I got something done. You kind of walk around with a little secret Mona Lisa smile all day. I know that intellectually I understand that, but that isn't enough to get me out of bed at 7 with my girlfriend and there's the dog and it's so idyllic and soft and warm. I need to just say, just show up, just get to the chair. I have a really comfortable chair that I write in, and I don't go, just go write. I go, just show up, just sit in the chair. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. The house is a little chilly. I get a blanket. I sit there and I have coffee, and I look out the window, and that you've already won. I give myself points for that, and then any writing that happens is a bonus.
There is something that I have noticed, and I have a little bit of it myself. But with me, it's situational. People who are very famous, and I'm not saying I'm very famous, but I have a touch of this, and it's a necessary skill when you are a known quantity and people want to talk to you and make small talk
at Comic-Con,
or wherever.
Yeah.
There is a commonality among very famous people is an absolute comfort with awkward silence. I could sit, just the feeling from them of, I could sit here for 2 hours and not say a word to you. It won't bother me a bit.
Yeah.
I remember there's a Stephen Wright short film that's maybe the weirdest thing of all time about like a Civil War soldier who like goes and lives in the woods after he's done. And in it, he talks about death a lot. And there's a joke, if you could call it that, where it's like, he's like, I already didn't exist for millions of years, and then I started existing, and I won't exist again one day. So all my life is kind of a brief interruption in my wonderful streak of non-existence.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, which is a really interesting
Well,
way
that's
of
what
looking
Dana
at it
Carvey
as well.
said. He goes, where were you in the Renaissance?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think about that all the time.
You were dead.
That's my less semen, more
emotion. Yeah.
But
so I've already been dead, and maybe it wasn't that bad.
But Alan Watts and the Reincarnation Peoples say we don't come into this world, we come out of this world.
There you go.
So there is no other place.
Yeah.
And there's this, and there's only this, and when you go, you'll come back into this.
That'd be great.
Right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't... I think, it's not... I think the happiest I've been is when I don't put a lot of thought into where it all goes.
Yeah.
And instead I think the journey is... And I think, the journey is what counts in every way. And it's something that I apply to almost every... it's like I used to make movies and put so much on their release. Once I realized, it's so funny because when I started making movies, I put nothing on their release. I didn't even think about it. I look back at Superbad, and I literally didn't I didn't even know if it did well or not.
It was less
because I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And then once I started to be aware of it, I put so much on. How's it going to do? Will people like me or not? Will I look stupid? Will I have to answer for this in some terrible way? And I almost think the interview was the thing that was so much
Innocence lost.
The culmination of that. Never has there been more focus on how something turned out than anything I've worked on. Creatively, there's been few things that have had more focus on than that, just from a news level.
Yeah.
And so that kind of was interesting because it was such a disaster how it all came out. But I had a lot of great times making that movie, and I love working with James Franco, and there was a lot of great. So I've started when I'm working to realize that this should be the reward.
This is enough.
And it's not enough is a strong word.
So they watched my HBO special with with another couple. And I like this because I'm telling you, this is a story of hope.
Church
because I was, and still am, let's be honest, in these waters with you. So my dad texted me, and he was like, something about I saw your maybe I should read it. Let me read it verbatim because it'll be better.
This used to be a bit on the show.
Voicemails
from my dad.
Exactly. Dad.
They call me Shorty.
This is a good moment between me and my dad. What is happening here? All right, here we go. Okay.
Dead air on the show. Dead air on the show.
Who cares? This is the text from my dad. It's Judd Apatow's birthday today.
Fragment sentence. Consider revising.
Yeah. Watched the stand-up special with Mom and another couple. Thought you did a great job.
Why is your dad like, do-do-do-do-do-do? Watch stand-up special. Stop.
Full stop. Wait, I forgot to sign it. Love, Dad. Thought you did a great job. Space! Exclamation point.
Oh, boy.
A little over the top with the F-bombs, but hey, that me, Dad.
It's HBO, Dad. Know your audience. They crave it.
Then an hour and a half later, he texts me the word "the" because I didn't reply, and I took that to be like, oh no, he's anxious that he critiqued me, and he's waiting for me to reply. I wasn't deliberately not replying. I just hate replying to texts. So I wrote, "Thank you, Pop. And if the language was a bit much, in the words of my great wise father, lighten up." That's what he says to everyone.
Lighten up.
I'm sure when he met you, he's like, "Look at this fucking giant leprechaun." And if you were like, "Hey,
when we first met,
lighten up,"
how much money did you make from those Verizon?
Yeah, exactly. His mantra is lighten up.
What did
and he loves saying "fuck them" if they can't take a joke. He loves saying,
"Wait,
it has fuck in it."
Literally says the word "fuck."
Fuck them if they can't take a joke. This is my dad. I love him. Can't he see? Can't he see that I'm his boy? Won't you pick me up from the crib, Dad? Fuck him if they... So I'm trying to flatter him. My great wise father, lighten up. Love you, Dad. Thanks for watching. I also included...
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say.
I appreciate the support. Thanks for watching.
You could have...
Always great to meet a fan.
Well, they didn't watch the last one.
No?
No, I don't think... they've never seen that.
What the fuck?
So, thanks for watching.
I mean, it's like...
You wouldn't come to the phone.
I don't know if they ever fucking watched the Pete Holmes show.
No, I don't think they saw the one that they were in the audience for, where my dad yelled out to Rob Corddry.
Oh no, yeah. I was talking about my parents.
Oh, your parents.
But yeah, but fucking of course. Like I stopped notifying my family when I'm going to be in Conan sketches.
That's
right. It's like, what the fuck do they care?
Yes, there's a slight passive aggressive thing that I do too, where I'm like, I don't want you to be like, I liked you on Conan. My mom will be like, you looked a little heavy or something. I'm like, come on.
Gotta say something, right?
Yeah, they gotta say. So I go, thanks for watching. Dad writes, your audience is not old guys like me. So he's kind of conceding.
Sure.
But at the same time, I don't think that Jerry Seinfeld feels that he has to drop F-bombs to be successful or entertaining. And
then you wrote back, well, fuck him and fuck you too.
Kind of, you'll see. He goes, in watching the show, it seems to me that the first 3/4 of it was bomb-free, and then it happens. Is that by design? Ryan Gosling? I have a bit about fucking Ryan Gosling.
But is he saying you bombed?
No, bomb-free F-bomb.
Oh, F-bomb. Oh. The first half, you were funny.
It's so funny. God. Then he goes, is this all a warm-up for the sitcom? That's what he calls crashing. Oh my God. I am your biggest supporter and always will be, love, Dad. Okay, so my therapy has me going, all right, don't go to the hardware store for milk, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of like, it must be weird. See, and I actually get to that. I'm just going to say what I replied. I'm understanding that he's trying to RSVP to my invitation to enjoy me as a human, but he's having a hard time because I'm also his baby boy. So I wrote, I don't fully understand what you're saying, but it's okay, Pop. I'd prefer you keep it to good job. And if you have grievances with it, to keep that away from me. And I'm not Jerry Seinfeld. I'm your son, and I have an HBO special. So let's just celebrate that, okay? So that was all right.
I mean, my God. You're killing it. Right?
This is a lot of therapy. This is like...
I mean, it's like, how big was that fucking billboard in Times Square? You know?
I thought you meant the text skill.
Oh, no. Yeah. So my dad sends me a text wall.
I'm more impressed with my texting abilities. I know. It's exciting. It's an exciting time. And that's the thing is I'm like, you should be excited. You're robbing yourself of pride and fun. It should be fun. And then he wrote, I get it. It your career and you can do what you want. I'm very proud of you, love, Dad. Thank you, Pop. I love you very much. Now this being his son, I wait an hour and a half, same amount of time. And then I wrote, I also want to add that I'm proud of you too, Pop. I know it must be strange to have the boy you used to hoist up on your shoulders grow up to do such unique things. I am grateful to you and Mom for your support, your patience, and your understanding.
Can you imagine if he put you on his shoulders now?
It'd be like an accordion.
Oh, my God. It would. It's like the rock falls on Wile E. Coyote.
But it's Boston, so it's fuck you, Dunkin' Donuts. I can see the effort you're making to love me and be a part of every aspect of it gets better, of my life, and it means a lot. Thanks again for the kind words. I'm glad you liked this.
Some conversation.
I know. But then this is why I'm sharing it with you.
Oh, okay.
You're right. This is him. Is it the next day? It's the next day. I am here by myself watching your stand-up, he means again, and thinking what an asshole I am. Wow. You were great. I think watching it with Mom made me uncomfortable.
Wow.
Sorry. You are right. Sit back and watch your son on his HBO special and lighten up. Love, Dad.